I never thought the people who gave me life would also be the ones to steal my future. But that's exactly what happened. My parents didn't just take money, they took away everything my grandparents had left for me. The education fund meant for my MBA, the dream they'd saved decades for, was gone. They used it to buy a house, not for themselves but for my brother, the golden son. When I found out, something inside me cracked. 28 years of being the quiet one, the one who never fought back, who kept his head down because he didn't want to hurt anyone. All of that ended the moment I saw the zero on my bank statement. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I realized it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, their choice. And that was when I learned the most painful truth of all. Sometimes, the people who teach you about love are the first ones to destroy it. That morning in Brookline was cold and grey. I was sipping coffee, half asleep, when the phone rang. "This is Wells Fargo calling to verify an account closure," the voice said. My chest tightened. "What closure?" "Your education account ending in 4127. It's been emptied." For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. That account wasn't just money. It was my grandparents' legacy. My grandmother used to call it, "Your key to a better life, Ethan." Now that key had vanished. I called my father, Robert. No answer. Then I called my mother. She picked up after 3 rings, her tone cautious. "Ethan, don't panic. We had to use the money." It was an emergency. An emergency? My heart pounded. What kind of emergency costs $120,000? "Your brother, Daniel. He and Lily found their dream home. The bank denied their mortgage. We couldn't let them lose it." I froze. "You used my fund, the one Grandma and Grandpa left for me?" "Ethan, it's all family. You'll make it back. You're strong, smart, independent." Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed, as if she'd been waiting to justify it. After the trial, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for hours, staring at the courthouse steps through the windshield fog. Everything felt still, too still, like the calm that follows destruction. 3 days later, the news broke. Brookline couple accused of forging will, stealing $120,000 education fund. The names, Robert and Linda Miller. No longer mom and dad, just defendants in a story that would follow them forever. The phone calls started pouring in, co-workers, college friends, even old neighbors. Everyone asked the same question, "Ethan, are you okay?" I wasn't sure how to answer. Maybe for the first time in my life I actually was, because finally I didn't owe anyone anything. That night Daniel called. His voice was hoarse, soaked in whiskey. "You happy now, Ethan? They're about to lose everything. The house is frozen, the account's locked. I lost my job." I took a breath. "You didn't lose anything, Daniel. You're just paying back what you took. You think it's that simple? They did it for me because I'm the one they love." "Exactly," I said quietly. "And that's the tragedy." That night I drove to their house. Daniel's car was in the driveway, a shiny new Tesla that I knew he didn't pay for. Through the window, I could see them laughing around the table, and I realized I wasn't part of that world anymore. I sat there for an hour staring at the lights, at the people who used to be my family. For the first time I felt something deeper than anger, disbelief. Because betrayal, when it comes from strangers, hurts. But when it comes from home, it destroys you. I didn't confront them right away. I needed to know if what I feared was true. So I went to the lawyer who had handled my grandparents' estate. He was an older man named Harris, the same one who'd been there when Grandma passed. When I told him what happened, he frowned, typed something into his computer, then sighed heavily. "The education trust was meant exclusively for you. Ethan, no one else had legal access." My stomach turned cold. "Then how did they take it?" He clicked open a file and turned the screen toward me. "Your father presented this, a signed addendum granting him temporary control over the fund. Supposedly from you." My eyes dropped to the document. The signature was mine, or almost mine. Every loop and curve mimicked my handwriting perfectly, except for one small detail, the way the E slanted left instead of right. I felt sick. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing my father sitting at his desk, the yellow lamp glowing on his face as he signed my name, with steady, confident strokes. The man who once taught me how to write my own signature had used it to steal from me. The next evening I drove to their house again. When my mother opened the door, she looked startled to see me. My father sat in the living room watching a baseball game, pretending not to notice. "Why?" I asked quietly. He didn't even turn off the TV. "We did what we had to do," he said. "Daniel has a family." "You don't. He needed help," I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You forged my name. You took what Grandma left me. And you still think this is about help?" "Don't be dramatic," my mother snapped. "It's still in the family. You'll make that money back in a year." I looked between them, the people who raised me, now strangers. Something in me cracked completely. "You didn't just take my money," I said softly. "You took the one thing Grandma trusted you with. Integrity." My father stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. "Don't talk to me about morality. Ethan, family comes first." I met his stare. "Then maybe I was never family to you," and that was the last thing I said before walking out. Not just from the house, from the illusion that blood always means love. Months went by. I didn't call them. They didn't call me. That silence stretched longer than I thought it would, like a wall that nobody wanted to tear down. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at the logistics firm, nights bartending near Cambridge. Every paycheck I saved was a reminder of what I'd lost. Sometimes when I walked past the old family home, I'd see Daniel's new Tesla gleaming in the driveway and hear laughter from inside. My parents posted pictures online, so proud of our son Daniel for buying his first house. A perfect family photo, smiles, champagne, not a single word about the fund that paid for it. I stopped looking, because every time I did, it felt like I was the ghost haunting a life I used to belong to. But silence doesn't heal. It festers. One evening, as I was closing up the bar, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the voice on the other end froze my heart. "Ethan, this is Mr. Harris." I stepped outside. The air was cold, sharp, the kind that makes you feel awake. "I found something," he said. "About your grandparents, Will." My pulse quickened. "What about it?" "The version your father filed in probate court isn't the same as the one I have on record. The one in my archive names you as the sole beneficiary. His version divides it between you and Daniel." My mouth went dry. "Are you saying my father changed it?" "Not changed, forged. The signatures don't match your grandmother's handwriting." "I've already sent it for verification." I leaned against the cold brick wall, breath short. Everything I'd tried to ignore suddenly snapped into place. The fake signature on the fund, the missing documents, the way my parents acted as if nothing had happened. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was fraud, committed by the people who were supposed to protect me. That night I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights flickering outside. I poured a drink and stared at the reflection of my face in the window. Someone I barely recognized, and for the first time I whispered to myself, "They took everything from me." But they won't take justice too. Building the case took 6 long months. Every document had to be verified, every transaction tracked. Mr. Harris worked with a forensic accountant to reconstruct the fund's history, every withdrawal, every forged form. When we filed the lawsuit, the local news picked it up almost immediately. "Son sues parents over forged will and stolen trust fund." The comments were brutal. What kind of man takes his own parents to court? "He just wants attention." I didn't care. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth and closure. The court date arrived on a grey November morning. I remember the echo of my footsteps as I walked into the courtroom, the smell of old wood and tension. My father sat at the defense table in a crisp suit, his posture proud, defiant. My mother's hands trembled as she clutched her purse. Daniel was there too, sitting behind them, eyes darting anywhere but mine. When the judge entered, everyone rose. My heart pounded so loud it drowned the sound of the gavel. Mr. Harris began with the evidence: authentic handwriting samples, transaction records, emails linking my father to the withdrawals. He laid everything bare, piece by piece, until the truth stood naked before the court. Then he opened a sealed envelope, the original will, the one my grandmother signed. He placed it on the table, and in that moment, my mother's composure shattered. She cried openly, whispering through tears, "We didn't mean to hurt you. Ethan, we just wanted to keep the family together." Her words cut deeper than any accusation, because that was their justification for everything: family. Family had always been their excuse for cruelty. The judge's verdict came down like thunder. This court finds sufficient grounds for a criminal investigation into forgery and misappropriation of trust funds. My father's jaw tightened. My mother broke down completely. Daniel sank lower in his seat. As for me, I didn't feel victorious. There was no triumph, no satisfaction, only emptiness. Because in that room I realized something I'd never wanted to face. Justice doesn't heal. It only exposes the wound. After the trial, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for hours, staring at the courthouse steps through the windshield fog. Everything felt still and too still, like the calm that follows destruction. 3 days later, the news broke. Brookline couple accused of forging will, stealing $120,000 education fund. The names Robert and Linda Miller. No longer mom and dad, just defendants in a story that would follow them forever. The phone calls started pouring in, co-workers, college friends, even old neighbors. Everyone asked the same question. Ethan, are you okay? I wasn't sure how to answer. Maybe for the first time in my life I actually was, because finally I didn't owe anyone anything. That night Daniel called. His voice was hoarse, soaked in whiskey. You happy now, Ethan? They're about to lose everything. The house is frozen. The account's locked. I lost my job. I took a breath. You didn't lose anything, Daniel. You're just paying back what you took. You think it's that simple. They did it for me, because I'm the one they love. Exactly, I said quietly. And that's the tragedy. Silence. Then a bitter laugh. You think you've won. Nobody wins, Ethan. You killed this family. His words hung in the air long after the line went dead. I sat there, staring into the dark, my hands trembling slightly. Maybe he was right. Maybe there are no winners in a war built on blood. But deep down I knew I hadn't destroyed this family. Greed did. A week later, Uncle Raymond and Mr. Harris visited me. They brought a folder, the official court report. The verdict confirmed everything. The forged documents were written by my father's own hand. When I read those words, I didn't feel anger anymore. Just emptiness, the kind that comes when there's nothing left to break. You can withdraw the recovered amount now, Raymond said. Will you still pursue your MBA? I smiled faintly. Yes, but not for the degree, but for the principle. Knowledge can save us from the places love fails. That night I received a letter from my mother through her lawyer. Ethan, I know you may never read this. I don't know when things went wrong. Maybe when you stopped fighting back, when your silence became your shield. I mistook your endurance for peace. I forgot that silence can also be a scream. If there's another life, I hope I'll love you more fairly in that one. Mom? I didn't know if it was guilt or love. But for the first time I didn't feel hate, only sorrow. 2 months later the sentence came down. Suspended prison terms for both parents, asset forfeiture, and a financial ban. Daniel and Lily were ordered to repay the balance and face civil penalties. The Miller family, once the pride of Brookline, was now a stain buried in the archives of local news. When a reporter asked for a statement, I said only, sometimes to find justice, you have to lose your home. Days blurred into weeks. The noise around the case faded, replaced by an eerie quiet. But the silence didn't comfort me. It just echoed louder. One evening, Mr. Harris showed up at my apartment. He handed me a small envelope. It was found in your grandmother's safe. She wrote it before she passed. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a handwritten note. If you're reading this, Ethan, it means the truth has come to light. I knew you'd take the hard road. It's in your nature. Don't fear it. The truth always stands with you. What I've left you isn't money. It's courage. Use it not to fight, but to live. I folded the letter and stared out the window. The snow had melted. The city was quiet. Boston looked different, softer, almost forgiving. I whispered, I did it, Grandma. But it doesn't feel like victory, and maybe that was the point. Justice was never meant to feel like winning. It was meant to feel like understanding. By spring, I had packed up everything. Boxes of court files, a few books, and the only photo of Grandma I had left, her smiling under an apple tree. I was leaving Massachusetts for San Francisco, accepted into the MBA program I was supposed to start years ago. Before my flight, I stopped by Brookline Cemetery. The air was still, scented with fresh grass and distant rain. I placed a small bouquet on their grave. I did it, Grandma, I said softly. But I still feel hollow. The wind blew, carrying the faintest scent of apple pie, her apple pie. I smiled through the tears. Maybe that was her way of answering. That night, Uncle Raymond sent me a wooden box and a letter. Ethan, I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to distract you. After the case, the firm discovered a private trust your grandmother had opened in your name. The amount isn't much, but inside you'll find something more important. She left a note saying, if Ethan has the courage to seek truth, this will help him begin again, not from pain, but from kindness. Live well, Ethan, because in the end, forgiveness is stronger than anger. Inside the box was a silver pocket watch, old and slightly tarnished. On the back engraved words, justice does not come from power. It comes from a heart that still believes in what's right. I closed my fist around it. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt anymore. It felt like peace. 3 months later, I was living in a small apartment overlooking San Francisco Bay. Mornings were filled with sunlight, the smell of coffee, and the distant cry of seagulls. For the first time in years, I felt calm. I started my MBA. Not for revenge, not to prove anything, just to move forward. Then one afternoon, I received an email from Uncle Raymond. Your parents moved to Maine, Daniel's divorced, out of work, trying to start over. I read it twice. No anger, no satisfaction, just a quiet kind of nothing, and somehow that nothing felt like freedom. That evening I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. Fog drifted over the water. The city lights shimmered beneath it. I took out the pocket watch, opened it, and whispered, Grandma, I'm not angry anymore. She'll live well, man, for both of us. The second hand ticked softly. Click, click, like a heartbeat. I smiled. Maybe that was her answer. The next day during class, a professor asked everyone to share what they'd learned the most in life. When it was my turn, I said that sometimes the greatest lessons don't come from books, they come from scars. The room went silent for a moment. Then someone started to clap. I looked out the window. Sunlight poured through, bright and warm, touching the wood floors, the same color as my grandfather's old desk. And for a moment I felt him there too. The past hadn't disappeared, and it had simply stopped hurting. That night I went back to the bridge. The fog was thicker this time, swallowing the city lights whole. I took out the watch again, listening to it tick against my palm. Time no longer scared me, because now I was living it, not running from it. Not every wound needs to heal, I whispered. Some just remind you that you survived. The wind blew from the bay, cool and salty, brushing against my face, and as I turned to leave, I thought of Grandma's words the night before she passed. Ethan, the world is wide, but you only need to find one place where you can be yourself, and that will be home. Now I had found it. Not in a house, not in a city, but in myself. Justice is the beginning, forgiveness is the destination, and freedom is simply the courage to move on.